home brothers. We're talking about religion in China and what this situation is. Now, apparently, I've learned a lot about religion in China, and I actually converted into religion and became religious in China, and I was critical of religion in America. When I was in America, I felt my father's, stepfather's, family, the religious people that I came in contact with were extremely hypocritical, and I didn't see them as enlightened, having nice voices, bright eyes, meditating, praying a lot. For example, your typical Christian or Jew in America, they follow no rules whatsoever. They drink, they eat meat, they do all that, and then they sort of take Christianity as being, well, I want to be, nicer than the other people, and being nice is all good and everything. Doing volunteer work and all of that is fairly important, but there seems to be little or no emphasis on practice for the self. And that's what you want to learn when you come to Asia and you study religion here, is you want to learn to emphasize your practice on yourself and not society so much, and not others and how others behave, and are the laws being obeyed and such like that. So this is why I think you're going to make the initial move into learning Asian and Eastern religions, because it's only in Eastern religion that you're going to find a strong and clear emphasis on personal behavior, whereas the Bible is vague on virtually all the points of modern behavioral problems. We don't see a specific commandment or even just a specific statement in the Bible against abortion. I would have to translate "thou shalt not kill" into, well, abortion is killing, etc. But there's no clear statement. And in Buddhism, there's probably several sutras, but I have one here. It's like from 700 years ago. It's a pretty good long read that goes into the specifics about why abortion is wrong, and what are the effects of abortion, and what somebody who has committed abortion must do for penance. And that's much more specific, people. That's much more useful. Now, I'm often asked, are most Chinese people religious? Or no, most Chinese are atheists. They worship money, and for me, you could just ignore them. They're not important. Society people aren't important anywhere you go. There's perhaps more society people, and there's a deeper degree of social problems in China than America, of course. A deeper degree of social problems in China than Europe, but it's also considerably better than India and Africa. So generally, society here is, let's just say, pretty scummy. Pretty not interesting, and let's not focus on them too much, unless these problems come to us, and then we deal with it. We make justice. We go to the cops, get our lawyer, do whatever we have to do to oppose the evil that is in China. But generally speaking, most of the social people here, society people, are in a religion of money, and they literally have a money god everywhere. You see the money god idols in restaurants and hotels, offices, and they pray to the money god. They light incense and give sacrifices to the money god, and they call him the money god. It's called Taishan. So, the main religion in China is literally worshipping money. Then the second most popular religion, which is an actual religion, is Buddhism. And Buddhism, generally we find 3 or 4 main groups of Buddhists. The number one most common Buddhism in China is called Pure Land Buddhism. In Chinese that's called Jingtu. Now, if you're into Jingtu Fojiao, that means you're essentially a Hare Krishna. But instead of chanting Hare Krishna, you chant Amitabha, and in Chinese that's Amitofo, and we have videos about this on this channel. You can learn the melody. There's many melodies, of course, and then you can, just like Hare Krishna, and your meditation method is to chant loudly Amitofo in a social setting with lots of people, and suppress external mundane thoughts, and then you gradually stop going to temple and you do more quiet meditation, and you read and recite Amitofo in the mind, and you're clearing different levels of karma from the coarsest to the finest, and you have to do all those levels. There really is no higher level of this type of meditation. It goes through all the courses, and you could do one before the other, and it doesn't matter. You have to do all this work anyway. You have to clean out the various levels of mind and soul, and these planes need to get clear. So that's called Pure Land. Is number one. Number two is they're called Mizong, and Mizong is very popular in the West. And the goddess of Mizong is this. She's up on the wall under the guitars there, in white clothes. I guess you can't see her, but she's above the plants in white clothes. There's a picture in the middle of the wall, and that is her. That is the main god of the main idol of Mizong Buddhism, and her name in English is the Goddess of Mercy, and in Chinese is Guanyin Pusa. Pusa is the way they pronounce Buddha. And Amitofo, by the way, is over there. Maybe we can see him in the mirror. No. Well, the Amitofo idol there is next to the ladder. Now, I kind of like that angle, but and I don't know what they do with this, Goddess of Mercy. Again, don't get confused in Buddhism. The gods and idols take on a gender, but that's just for drawing the picture. There are no genders to gods. Guanyin Pusa, the Goddess of Mercy, before he went to heaven, was a man. He was a man in real life. Let's see what else. The number 3 most popular, I think, is Tibetan Buddhism. And Tibetan Buddhism has some really great masters in it, living in the Himalayas and over in Tibet. Also in Kangding, the area that they call Tibet politically is not the same as the real Tibet. The real Tibet is where you find majority populations of Tibetans and Tibetan Buddhism. And so actually northern Sichuan province is also a part of real Tibet, and Kangding is there. I was looking into for a while going and converting to that and going to a Tibetan master. In society, I think people who follow Tibetan masters are often sort of looser. I think they don't they have a lower rate of vegetarianism, and the social comprehension of Tibetan Buddhism is not my favorite, though. Some of these masters, like I said, I've gone to lectures and I love them. I think some of the masters are definitely great. Finally, there's Zen Buddhism. I'm personal friends with a pretty famous Zen Buddhist. His name is Zhiguang Fashi, and he lives north of the river, next to William. And on a personal level, I think he's fine. But most people, when they start talking to any Zen Buddhist, not just him, but any Zen Buddhist, they get really pissed off and angry, because the Zen situation in China right now, I don't know why they're doing this, but they're very, very sectarian. They consider themselves to be atheists. They sit down and meditate on emptiness, and they call emptiness their meditation goal. It's the same technique everybody uses. You have to shut out the outside normal things, worldly things, before you really start going deep and getting your visions and your experiences in the spirit world. So I think it's disingenuous of them to say they're atheists and simply define God as Kong being emptiness. They're like, well, we go after Kong, we don't believe in God, and anyone who believes in God is dumb, and they're very sectarian. What I mean by that too is they're trying to pick fights, and they jump into conversations. They think there's only one correct answer to every question. So this particular monk, when I first met him, he also pissed me off for at least a good half hour, because he would ask me questions and then he was waiting for the answer he wanted. And I don't know, I've been a teacher all my life since I was 16 or 17 years old, and that's not good teaching either. You don't want to, when you're teaching somebody and you ask a question, the goal is to get people thinking on this subject, and it's actually an opportunity for the teacher to learn as well. The teacher has to keep his mind in an aware state and figure out if some of the answers he's getting could be true, and he has to accept new answers that he didn't consider before. And that, my brother's is a good teacher. So I'm sort of anti-Zen. I don't really like the Zen guys here so much. I stayed at a Zen temple once, and oh boy, was that funny. They were like, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm here to meditate and get into it. And they're like, no, why are you here? I said, okay, I guess I'll try something else. I'm here to enjoy some peace and quiet during the holiday, and find some inner peace. No, why are you here? And these people, all of the monks, were asking me this 500 times, and no matter what I said, they said, no, you're wrong. Your answering is wrong. And I'm like, okay. They had really, really good food. It was very, very clean. And I looked at the guys, and I think some of them are real, and they're into something good, but I don't think it's totally positive in my view. We got a question about Taoism. People hear a lot more about Taoism in other countries than in China. Taoism is practically dead here. Taoism is perhaps a false construct. It doesn't really exist. Taoism is a word people use for the collection of traditional science, beliefs, divination that existed in China in this area we call China today, among many different races and different political entities. The collection of this is called Taoism. I don't know particularly why, and a lot of it conflicts itself because it's a big bag together. So, question is, what about medicine? There's two opposing schools of medicine, and I think both of those books and traditions would be included in what people call Taoism. The first one is the oldest one, and that's the real Chinese medicine from Huangdi Neijing, when they use mostly herbs and other methods to pay your karma, and not it doesn't hurt animals or torture animals. And then there's this new book from the 17th century, Bensao Ganmu, and that's where all the evil Chinese doctors are learning their medicine from, and it's fake. It's fake medicine, and of course doesn't work, and it's tortures animals. And most recently, the biggest incident of that is where they're taking black bear bile from live bears, while they're screaming in pain, and they keep the bears alive as long as possible so they can keep getting more bile. And this was attacked by a very virtuous white woman who broke into the factory and took pictures and exposed it in the public media. And so I applaud anyone and everyone who were involved in that. So Taoism, I started with traditional beliefs and traditional things in China. Of course, I didn't get into Buddhism right away, so I started with what we would call Taoism. And then you're going to start with Ba Gua. Ba Gua are the 8 trigrams, and then those multiply into the 64 hexagrams, and a hexagram not being a geometric shape, but a gram made of lines. So it'd be 6 lines, and a combination of 2 trigrams. And then this describes, it's mostly scientific, and this science is very useful, and I still use it, I think. And Taiwanese and Hong Kong people, they use these traditional techniques. So if you want to sort of lose the term Taoism and just say traditional Chinese medicine, science, and beliefs, then Hong Kong and Taiwan are about 70% that. They're real Chinese people, and then mainland Chinese people now are sort of addicted to money, worshiping money god, and doing whatever it takes to be like Jews so that they can get into Jewish organizations and start stealing Jewish assets to take over the material world from Jews. That's their it's not a conscious plan, but that's what they're doing unconsciously. We tend to think of these Chinese people as subconscious, almost female or androgynous humans. They don't really have a gender, and they don't really think independently. They're an example of doing things in groups for so long that the individuals become weak. And whereas for us white people, we're trying to learn how to work in groups and use group power, and that would be very beneficial to us. But for them, it's turned into a weakness because they've used it too much, and over generations and generations, individual Chinese have become sort of genderless and brainless, and subconsciously they're worshiping money, subconsciously and consciously the money thing too, but subconsciously they're going after a plan to take over Jewish assets. And then let me see what else. What would the percentage be? I think about 1 out of 3 Chinese are pretty open to learning religion and getting involved in religion. Most of these people have not found something that they like yet. What's the state of Christianity and other religions here? Well, Christianity is pretty well suppressed. You have Protestantism and Catholicism, and you have an official church in each region, and that church is usually jam-packed because it can't handle the number of people that want to be there. So the official recognition and the official space given for religion is not enough, and people want more of the space. And the way they control it is they say you're not allowed to have private groups of more than 5 people at your home that are doing religious things. So this is a serious restriction for organization, religious organization. And let's see, concerning Islam, There are relatively good Muslims called the Hui, and they're pretty clean and polite and good people. They circumcise a lot less, but let's say a third of them circumcise, but most of them don't. And then the evil Islamics are called the Weiwuazu, and we call them Uyghur in English and then probably in Uyghur. And they are also direct relatives of contemporary Ashkenazi Jews. They have hook noses, balding heads, flat foreheads, droopy earlobes, thin upper lips, short statures, and they look so similar. It's amazing, and they circumcise 100%, and they're freaking evil. So I stay away from those Uyghurs at the longest distance possible. Most of those live in Xinjiang province, which is the whole northeast section of China is Xinjiang province. And they have a direct train to Nanjing, and they send their kids and send people to come here to steal from Han, which is mainstream Chinese. And they steal our stuff, and it's just what Jews tell Jews to do. Just go after everybody who's not from our group or our race and hurt them as badly as you can, and that is quote-unquote morality. The same thing we read in the Talmud, and that's what these Uyghurs are doing. They come here and they try to rob, and they carry around knives and they stab people if necessary. And Nanjing has a very, very low crime rate, especially violent crime, but we still have a couple of these Uyghur gangs roaming around one of our intersections that are around a little section of Nanjing there, and I don't know, occasionally I'll bust them or call out from a safe location. I'm not too concerned about them because they tend to steal from these girls' purses, and I think that's just fine, but whatever. Like some slutty Chinese chick, and carrying around one of those dumb, vanity bags, and then she's so dumb she doesn't know where she is or what she's doing. She's not aware of herself, and these are perfect targets for thieves. And I don't know, part of me says it's just fine that they're stealing from those people, and I've never had anything stolen here, and certainly have never encountered violence in Nanjing. We have the lowest violent crime rate in all of China in Nanjing, and so you can walk around at 2 or 3 a.m. and all by yourself, and perfect tranquility and security. So I love you, Nanjing cops, and thanks for everything you've done for us. And what else can I say? If you come to this room is what we call Castle 1. It's our primary KBH castle where we receive visitors and friends from other countries, and also from locally. You can stay here as long as you want. I'll feed you. We've got Mario, William, Cousin Shamrock, a bunch of people. If you're interested in pilgrimaging, I'm in personal contact with probably 20 or 30 different monks in different areas of Nanjing, around Nanjing, and areas in China, where you can go stay in a temple, usually for free or practically free. Practically free, I mean you might pay $1, $2 a day for food, and they'll cook and serve your food for you, and I don't know, they're funny, interesting places. If you're still interested in the temple scene, for me, the monks are friends. We go out for coffee or tea, and we like talking together, and concerning ritual and all that, I think is secondary to personal meditation practice. And I've developed a pretty strict daily personal meditation practice, and since that point I've not been too interested in a rigorous social Buddhist program, though we have plenty of those around here. We have a temple called the Jiming Temple, which is, let's say, about 10 blocks down the road from me. It's on my road. It's constructed in 300 AD, so that's 1700 years old, and it is considered by the Thailand government to be the most important temple in the south of China. So we have Thai Buddhist idols in there. It's very interesting, gorgeous, and it's a very active place. They have practically 24 hours a day. You've got Buddhist classes going on, which include, loud chanting, and it is a Pure Land temple. It is for nuns, so the people living there are nuns, but you're more than welcome to go there to, eat and pray and go around. It's done quite well. There's a lot of tourists going, up and down the main parts. So I go there to take my friends around and to, see the environment and enjoy it. But personally, like something like that during the day with so many tourists, and then, in the afternoon and night with the classes, I don't really need the classes anymore. I don't want to be, like, arrogant, but the classes seem to me to be on a level that I've already pretty much cleared out. So I'm ready for silent meditation at home, and if you're doing that, you're of course more than welcome to do that with us. All right, so I hope this gives you a good enough overview of religion in China. If you have any more questions, leave comments. Home brothers. Home brothers, we're talking about religion in China and what this situation is. Now, apparently I've learned a lot about religion in China, and I actually converted into religion and became religious in China, and I was critical of religion in America. When I was in America, I felt my father's, stepfather's, family, the religious people that I came in contact with were extremely hypocritical, and I didn't see them as enlightened, having nice voices, bright eyes, meditating, praying a lot. For example, your typical Christian or Jew in America, they follow no rules whatsoever. They drain a strong and clear emphasis on personal behavior, whereas the Bible is vague on virtually all the points of modern behavioral problems. We don't see a specific commandment or even just a specific statement in the Bible against abortion. I would have to translate "thou shalt not kill" into, well, abortion is killing, etc. But there's no clear statement. In Buddhism, there's probably several sutras, but I have one here. It's like from 700 years ago. It's a pretty good long read that goes into the specifics about why abortion is wrong, and what are the effects of abortion, and what they eat meat, they do all that, and then they sort of take Christianity as being, well, I want to be, nicer than the other people, and being nice is all good and everything. Doing volunteer work and all of that is fairly important, but there seems to be little or no emphasis on practice for the self. And that's what you want to learn when you come to Asia and you study religion here, is you want to learn to emphasize your practice on yourself and not society so much, and not others and how others behave, and are the laws being obeyed and such like that. So this is why I think you're going to make the initial move into learning Asian and Eastern religions, because it's only in Eastern religion that you're going to find somebody who has committed abortion must do for penance, and that's much more specific people. That's much more useful. Now, I'm often asked, are most Chinese people religious? Or no, most Chinese are atheists. They worship money, and for me, you could just ignore them. They're not important. Society people aren't important anywhere you go. There's perhaps more society people, and there's a deeper degree of social problems in China than America, of course. A deeper degree of social problems in China than Europe, but it's also considerably better than India and Africa. So generally, society here is, let's just say, pretty scummy. Pretty not interesting, and let's not focus on them too much unless these problems come to us, and then we deal with it. We make justice. We go to the cops, get our lawyer, do whatever we have to do to oppose the evil that is in China. But generally speaking, most of the social people here, society people, are in a religion of money, and they literally have a money god everywhere. You see the money god idols in restaurants and hotels, offices, and they pray to the money god. They light incense and give sacrifices to the money god, and they call him the money god. It's called Taishan. So, the main religion in China is literally worship